Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam, not Beware of Spoilers. Exploring Nope, not that either. This is just a fucking train wreck. The backlog files. I know what I'm doing, believe it or not. You know. We'll go to the backlog files. I'm Adam, and despite, everything, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of tired today. It is Monday evening. I'm recording this on my way home from work because I've been busy lately, as evidenced by the lack of episodes. I was going to talk about Citizen Sleeper, and then that kind of fell by the wayside because I played a little bit of it, and I don't know, the gameplay didn't quite gel with me, so I was like, alright, we'll just put this, we'll do this elsewhere, and, we'll do that later. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? I was going to do Avowed, but that would have required a fuck ton of moving shit around on my hard drive to accommodate the space requirements of that. Then there was this game that came out last year, and I had heard about it because it got nominated for Game of the Year, and it was one of these small releases that I hadn't heard of it before this, and it's called Balatro. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. It's a small indie game where it's basically just one-sided poker, I think is the best way to do it, where you have to get points for the hands you play by modifying your deck and modifying the jokers you have, which give you different effects and all of that. And you have to, play through rounds and get to the boss and defeat the boss and rinse, repeat, and keep going. It sounds very simplistic. It's a deck building roguelike is probably the best way. I mean, it's the best way to describe it. It is what the game is. It's a deck building roguelike where you build a deck of cards and you get through and do it. The issue is, this game is incredibly addicting, which is part of why I haven't done an episode in so long, and why it's kind of thrown wrenches into everything, is that I have sunk so much time into this fucking game that it is beyond me. And then I made the mistake of looking at the achievements, which is what made me kind of take a back seat from the game. The achievements are so hard that I was like, all right, well, maybe we'll come back to it another time. But it's really, really fun. It's one of those, it's one of those roguelikes that you never really, feel like you never really feel like you're losing out. It's even as you, it's like FTL or like Binding of Isaac, where even as you lose. Sorry, I was driving and something caught my attention. Even as you lose, you will still feel like, okay, I don't feel like I was cheated out of that. I'm frustrated in myself more than anything else. And I think that is the real power of this game. Is that thought process that it can instill in you very early on. It's very simple. It's easy to master. You never feel cheated out of the RNG, which is something that's big for me in a game like this, where it's like, my least favorite thing about games like this is when you play it and you feel like you lost, but it's not entirely your fault. That it feels like there's a bad decision I made down the line, and if I track back to that decision and make a different choice, I would have won. And that's ultimately why I think that this game is so successful, and it's this idea that, you do a great job of balancing it out so you don't feel like you are caught off guard when you get to the end. And you do inevitably lose. And I lost a lot playing this game. It gets to the point where it's like, when you fucked up and you're like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have done that. I think too, it's like, and the other thing too is that it's like there's versatility in play style. And I think the Jokers are very well, what's the one for here? The Jokers are very well balanced with each other. So no matter how you want to play the game, there is a, there are things there and that are available early on enough that you can play the game however you want and not feel like, well, I have to go in for, trying these gameplay styles. Like, there are things you can only unlock by playing different gameplay styles. But that's not, and you do have to do that to get all the achievements. But at the same time, you never feel forced into like, well, I'm gonna skew my decks toward building 2-pair as what I'm gonna do. Like, 2-pair is easy to pull. I'm gonna build my deck toward doing that. I'm gonna play the tarot cards so that way I can get a bunch of cards all the same suit, and then I can get the flush. Or I'm gonna focus my deck on kings, queens, aces, and all of that, so that way I can get flushes and royal flushes. Like, there are ways to build a deck however you feel like you want to do it. Or like, I'm just gonna put all my money into into celestial cards, so I can up the the power of each of the combos I pull. It's and as I'm talking about it, I'm like, fuck, do I want to play this game more tonight? No, I have to. I'm working on that video, so I can't. I have to play the other thing. And it's like, fuck, I was writing something, and that's why this game distracted me so much that I was like, all right, let's get back into, let me get back into this book I'm writing. Like, no, I have to stay off this game. Like, this game is addicting. This is, if I had played this game last year, this would have been my game of the year last year. I'm sorry I didn't play it last year, but it did come to Game Pass, so I did end up playing it. I would very highly recommend everyone who check this game out. It is very fun. It's very easy. And let's talk about the thing that's going around now. People talking about, how do we get the next How do we get the next Balatro? And I think the answer to that is, you can't get the next Balatro. If you're a big publisher, you can't get the next Balatro. You can't. There are tons of games on the Steam store that come out every day. Every day there are new releases on the Steam store. And I don't think it's possible for a studio who's focused so much on money to figure out what it is that's going to hit that trend, because it's a weird game. It's a fucking weird game. Like, who would have thought that this would be the game that people would have glommed onto and been the and been the and been the one that will take it to the heights of the Binding of Isaac or other games like it. it shined through in a way that no one could have anticipated. And I think that if you're a studio and you're going to try and do that, like, you're not going to be able to. You just aren't, because you're going to be focused too much on, like, well, how do we make this something that a lot of people go out and buy? And then it's like, well, if people don't go out and buy it, like, how do we insert a live service element into this? How do we insert a long-term monetization strategy? Because we can't just sell one game anymore. We have to sell a game that we can get people to keep buying. We have to sell an ecosystem. And I think there's a reason why we're sitting in right now. We didn't really talk about it because I didn't do an episode about it, but like Warner Brothers Games shutting down Monolith and all of these other studios, I think we're watching the slow implosion of the AAA and the quadruple A game market, if quadruple A is really a thing. I think we're watching the slow implosion of that market. Because I've said it before on this show, I've said it on 30-minute reviews, I've said it on other podcasts. The AAA video game market is too big to succeed at this point. Like, the AAA games cost so much money to make, they require so many people to buy in to return on that investment. Like, you will not get that return. Like, you will never make that money back. Like, it's almost impossible. So, like, yeah, we see that, like, Marvel Rivals, the studio that did Marvel Rivals, had layoffs. Marvel Rivals has been wildly successful. So what? Even, like, you make a bad game, okay, you get one chance to make a bad game, and we're going to shut down your studio. Or a game, even if the game's not bad, it just doesn't catch fire. Well, okay, well, even if you make a good game that does catch fire, like, Overwatch 2 came out fairly recently. We don't talk about that, but in the hero arena shooter genre, the game now is Marvel Rivals. You can't get that working. Like, and that game worked, and you can't keep that studio on. Like, you're gonna lay off everyone, fire the creative director. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, so what is the recipe for success here? What longevity is there for someone who has a degree in coding? And let's be honest, if you're going to go into video games and be a video game developer, you're not doing it for the money. You're not going in and working that because you have you want to make a lot of money or something. You sign up to make video games because you have a passion for making video games. It's something that is in your blood. In the same way that, like, people who go out and take the chance to make movies or TV, or people who get into VFX works for movie or TV, like, they're not doing it to become millionaires. They're not doing it to become rich. You're never going to become rich doing that. You're doing it because you want to, you want to create something. That's what you're there to do. You're there to create something, and create something that will live past yourself, and do that. The idea that, we have so many companies that are just making bad decisions and then there's a commonality. We talk about this on 30-minute reviews, this idea of, like, if you look at the comments that have been made by Sony and by, and by Disney, where it's like they're blaming the failures of movies on these small moments in movies of representation. It's like, well, no, there were corporate decisions that went into this that caused this to be so much worse. Like, and I'm getting off topic here, but, like, look at, like, Captain America: Brave New World, which I don't think is going to end up turning a profit. And part of that comes from the fact that, like, you put so much money into reshooting this thing to try and hit all 4 quadrants and be this big thing. It's like, when you watch that movie, which I saw the movie and I did a review of it, you can see there was something they wanted to say. There's something that wanted to, that Julius Ona was like, this is the story I want to tell. This is what I want to, what I want to, how I want to tell this, the story of, we have a black Captain America facing off against an authoritarian, president, and how they're on opposite sides of the political spectrum on this. And you can tell there's a story he wanted to tell. And there's a world in which we get to the, where that movie comes out, and you get that scene of Red Hulk coming out from behind the presidential pulpit, and it's like, that is a instantly iconic moment. But you don't get that here because they tried to dilute down the story. There's a reason why when they did the press tour for Captain America Brave New World, I did not hear Julius Ona talk. I did not hear anything from him. I did not see an interview. I did not see a text interview, a video interview, a podcast interview. Anthony Mackie was out there. And sure as shit, when, like, the Electric State's coming out, the fucking Russos are out there talking about the Electric State. You don't see Julius Ona out there. It's interesting to see what went on behind the scenes there. And that is not dissimilar from what happens in video games. How can we turn this into a game that has live service support? How can we turn this game into something that we can monetize above and beyond just what we're doing right now? Above and beyond just what's going on in this, in the here. Like, how can we make this go on and be something that lasts much, much longer? And that's how you end up with bad decisions. It's this idea, like, the minute you start chasing a trend, you've already lost. And it's not just the fact that, you're trying to chase a trend and maybe your version won't be as good as the one that's already out, but you're chasing a trend that may not be there 5 months down the line, 6 months down the line, let alone 3 or 4 years when the development cycle of a video game is done. Because it takes a lot to make a game, and the idea that you're going to be able to get a game and you're going to be able to capitalize on a trend is just ridiculous. You won't be able to do that. It's questionable, and I think the fact that we're in this space now where Balatro came out, Balatro set the world on fire, and we're talking about, well, how can other major publishers try to replicate that success? You're not going to. You're never going to. What you need to do as an independent studio right now, not an independent studio, that's the wrong word, because independent studios are doing it. That's how you end up with all of these indie games that are really good. What publishers need to do is kind of silo themselves off. Like, I'm not saying, exist in your own space. I'm saying you need to not pay attention to what the competition is doing. Because if you're going to adjust to what the competition is doing, you're going to be so far behind them that it's not even worth doing. And I think with like, the best company to look at is Nintendo. Why is Nintendo a success? Because they're not chasing a trend. There's no live service Super Mario game. They have one live service title. That is their main live service title, and that's Splatoon. It's a live service shooter, and that's theirs. They're not like, well, how can we put live service elements into Super Mario Wonder? How can we put live service elements into Legend of Zelda? Just make the game you want to make, take the time to polish it, get the game out, call it a day, and that is your recipe for success. Don't try to unseat Fortnite. Don't look at Fortnite and be like, I want the Fortnite money. Because think back to the very early episodes. I think it may have actually been the first episode of Expand Your Collection, which was briefly a podcast that I ran back very early on, comparatively. This would have been like 2017, 2018. Maybe it even was on an episode of 30-minute reviews when I tried to introduce that as a segment, and Fortnite was coming out. And I said at the time when Fortnite was coming out and it was being released, I was like, oh, it's like a shooter. It's like Minecraft with a shooter element. Who's gonna want to play that? Don't play that. That seems stupid. How fucking wrong was I? Realistically, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I called that wrong. I'm not, that was a mistake on my part. I said no one's gonna want to play Fortnite. Well, here we are, almost a decade later, and Fortnite is still going strong. And look at where we are now. And there have been so many games that have tried to do Fortnite and failed. And it's just, you know what it is? You're just trying to replicate the same success, and you're just not doing it right. Because, you know, people aren't going to change ecosystems for you. Like, it doesn't matter what the console... Like, if I have a PlayStation or if I have an Xbox or whatever and I want to jump into Fortnite, I can. And I can jump into Fortnite with other people who have it. Like, at work, people talk about, like, oh, you want to play Fortnite tonight? Or you want to jump into Fortnite? You want to jump into... Like, there are certain ecosystems that will adjust and evolve. There will always be Call of Duty. Or, I mean, mostly be Call of Duty. There will always be Fortnite. There will always be things like that. But if you're someone who's like, well, I have a game that I want to I want to jump in and do, well, what's the point? And that's the thing too, is that it's like that was the other big trend that Warner Bros. Tried to chase. Like, oh, we want to do a platform fighter. Okay, well, you're gonna do a platform fighter, fine. You want to do a platform fighter, and then you end up with multiverses, which is an interesting concept. But if Sony couldn't make All-Stars Battle Royale work, what makes you think a live service version of that with Warner Brothers characters is gonna work? Like, if you can't get it to work with Sony characters in a video game environment, if you can't get that to work, then why do you think there's going to be that appeal for a crossover fighting game with all of these Warner Brothers characters? It's just one of those things that, like, it speaks to hubris, is what it speaks to. It speaks to hubris among executives that, like, no, I'll be able to unseat that. I'll be the one to come up with the new thing that everyone's going to love. I'll be the person to do that. Well, look at that. And the unfortunate thing is, the executive who does this, the executive who's like, I'm going to come up with this thing that's going to be it, they're never the one who faces the repercussion. They're never the one who's like, well, I'm the one who's going to take the fall for this. No. It's the people who work on the games, who take pennies on the dollar. Because if you have a degree in coding and you work in cybersecurity or you work in something else, you can make way more money with more stability than working in video games. But these are people who are passionate, and you're taking advantage of that passion. So that said, I don't think you will find the next Balatro if you're a student, if you're a publisher trying to find it. You're not going to. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your resources. You do not attempt to look for the next Balatro because you won't find it. You won't. Plain and simple, you will not find the next Balatro. You know, trying to find someone who can make that for you. You will find it if you are someone out there who's making your own game. Just like you will not find the next Stardew Valley. We go back to Stardew Valley a lot on this show. I'm playing Stardew Valley again. I sat there for a half hour and had to update all my mods. But I'm playing Stardew Valley again. And it's this idea that, you will not find the next Stardew Valley, or you will not be able to make the next Stardew Valley. And we saw that with that farming simulator bubble. Listen back on this show. We talk about that Nintendo Direct where it was like 8 farming simulators. And it's like, who is this for? Because anyone who likes Stardew Valley has to then make the choice to get away from Stardew Valley. Or look at, what's that thing where it's like, go on the Steam store. There's 1 million simulators, and they all look kind of the same. I don't know if they're all the same company, but they're all job simulators. And they're all so mundane that I'm like, who wants to play this? And all of them are like, oh, we'll start a movie theater. Here's movie theater simulator. Oh, we'll start a grocery store. Here's grocery store simulator. And it's like, okay, that's, it's a business simulator. All right. But who wants to fucking run a register in a video game? Who wants to sit there in a video game and run a fucking cash register? That's not what I'm doing this for. I ran a cash register at a drugstore for fucking 5 years, 6 years. I don't want to do that in my spare time. That's not fun. It's all bizarre to me that this is where we are with this bullshit. Everyone trying to chase a trend. Don't try to chase a trend. If you try to chase a trend, you won't catch the trend. You will never catch the trend, and you will never be able to, the only way to get the money of a trend is to be the one who sets the trend. So go out there and try your own thing. If you're someone out there who's working on a video game, go out and try something new. Or maybe it is something where it's like, hey, I really liked, this game. I'm going to try my own spin on it. Fine. Let the passion drive you. Don't let, the idea that like, well, I like this thing and this thing makes a lot of money, so I'm going to do it and also make a lot of money. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. If you want to do it because you want to do it, that's one thing. If you want to do it because you saw others get rich from it, best of luck to you. I wish you all the best, but you're not gonna cross that line. You're not gonna. You need to do something so above and beyond what everyone else can do that you will never be able to. That you will likely never get past that. But we'll wrap up there for today. And we'll be back next week with another episode about another video game or news that happens between now and then. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.